Knaus today.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So Monday, Ryan Odom was introduced as the Virginia men's basketball coach, and yesterday we sounded off on that because some listener feedback just sent me over the top, and we're not quite at I guess we'll term it now, Therapy Thursday in the Fast Lane. I couldn't wait. Again, got to get my usher on here in the Fast Lane, as you might have heard yesterday. So we haven't really had a chance to put a full bow on the Liberty Flames basketball season and how it ended in different ways, but disappointing fashion. For the men's team, it's because it never felt like they had a chance against Oregon. I mean, 19-2, they're down right from the get-go. They attempted over 30 three-pointers, and they shot below 30% from three-point land. Here's a news flash. That ain't good. That's not likely to get you a lot of victories. But, it was unlikely they were to win this game, but I'd be very curious, and maybe we should put this question up at Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. What is more disheartening if you're a Flames fan? Sorry to put salt in the wounds of our co-host and producer today, Philip Doss.
It happens.
But we got to keep it real in the Fast Lane. Is it the Oregon Ducks where the Flames jumped out to an early 6-0 lead? Kind of the inauspicious time to miss an extra point, but it didn't matter in the end. Or is it going against Oregon in basketball? Because if you're talking about disappointing feelings, I get there's like this national narrative of poking fun at Liberty for what happened in that bowl game against Oregon. But with all due respect to you and your teammates, Philip, I can say this as a media member who, of course, does not put the helmet on, does not have to go out there and perform and find a way to get it done. But the likelihood of beating that Oregon team was minimal. And it's going to become even more apparent how good that team was within the next 5 years when you start to see the volume of Oregon Ducks from that team in the NFL. Bucky Irving, running back, Tampa Bay. Bo Nix, quarterback, Denver Broncos. Yes, keep in mind the center Jackson Powers Johnson sat out that game, but there are others that'll be drafted this year. And I'm not talking about defensive lineman Derek Harmon, the transfer from Michigan State. I'm talking about the majority of the others who were on that team. I don't think they needed everything to go right, including Oregon, to have FSU level apathy for the Fiesta Bowl. And to Oregon's ever-loving credit, they didn't. Like they treated Liberty the way you would want, with a level of respect where maybe they kind of slept-walked early. Granted, Liberty just had the ball first, marched down the field and scored. But at that point, Oregon just did what they should have done. And it could have been 73-6 instead of 45-6. I get it. Maybe it's mean, Philip, but 4 touchdowns could have easily happened if Oregon really wanted to turn it on, play with greater pace in the second half, and just keep the starters in.
I was really hoping we were not going to see a 5-0 come onto the board towards the end of the game. I was really appreciative. I'm sure all the Liberty fans were as well when they decided to knee the ball at the 1-yard line.
They very much did. I remember that. It could have been 52, could have been more than that. But that game for Liberty, as much as the start got excitement up, even in the game, like, again, getting my usher on here in the Fast Lane, I guess I can say this since it's a state where it's legal to bet on your teams from Virginia. It's the stupidest rule in sports betting. You can't bet on Virginia teams in Virginia, but you can bet on North Carolina teams in North Carolina and West Virginia teams in West Virginia. Like literally the definition of elected officials having no clue what the heck they're talking about, but just passing something because it makes sense in their very uninformed brains. But Liberty gets the early score. Sorry, Philip. Fire up the Sportsbook app, and I go, minus 4.5 in the first half and minus 11.5 in the game. Pretty sure Oregon can cover those. You don't get those opportunities served up on a silver platter very often. When you do, take advantage of them. By the way, I think there might be one for NASCAR at Martinsville this coming weekend that we can get to tomorrow in the Fast Lane, because I think there's one that may be overlooked. But that's a tease for later. It's the men's basketball that was disappointing because the men's basketball, they never really had a chance, but I don't think it's because they didn't match up well with Oregon. Now, it was going to be an uphill battle in men's basketball because Oregon, they've got depth inside. They've got the ability to shoot the three. Shackelford, I think is the guy's name. Jackson Shellrod or whatever the guy's. That guy was on fire, and that guy's a legit baller.
Yeah, starting off the game, it was going to be a big size differential on both teams. Just Liberty obviously not being able to keep up a little bit, and just seeing early on everything was not going right for Richard McKay's squad, and Oregon was just dropping everything. Like they started off the game hot. You knew it was probably going to get a little rough early.
It was, and that's the thing is, I think the loss to Oregon in men's basketball was more disappointing than the loss in football. Because if you're honest with yourself, you knew that football game was an uphill battle as long as Oregon cared. This was not Florida State Orange Bowl where everybody had checked out and the coaching staff literally gave the team an excuse to not show up.
Yeah, a lot of times you can see in basketball, it can go either way. That's why March Madness is what it is, and you always have the Cinderella stories. In football, you kind of know on paper a little early, we don't know. This might go the way everybody thinks it's going to go, and everybody was hoping, we might have a nice little Cinderella story like I was saying with Liberty, and that did not happen.
No, it did not. And the thing is, I think there's a legitimate chance. If the three-point shots go for Liberty, all of a sudden that becomes a close game. If you've got the guys inside, and granted, there's an if there of if Isaiah Enan and Josh Smith are playing that Liberty has size inside. And I get it. They're 4 stars at Liberty because they've had injury issues in the past and it crept up and it kept them out from playing for the Flames. But if those things go your way, you have a chance. And it's why it's disappointing. But I don't begrudge Richie McKay even for what they said afterwards, because I think there's a lot of resiliency people overlook and why this part of not being defined by the loss still makes some sense.
We've always said that we won't base our identity on the outcome of a game. And we were really privileged to be a part of the NCAA tournament, to represent our university, our conference. And we'll root for Oregon for the next game.
And look, I get it stings, probably less so now that we're 5 days away from when Liberty last played. But that loss is disappointing if you're a Flames fan in the sense that in basketball, if you've got three-point shooting, the Flames have it. If you can play good defense, which the Flames generally do, even though this was a higher scoring team than people would think when it's a Tony Bennett disciple, yes, they can score, that Liberty, if those things work, they would have had a chance. And sure, it would have been better if you've got your injured players in Enan and Smith, but going into the game, you knew that wasn't happening. But you knew if you had the threes go, it would be a chance. And sometimes there are nights in basketball where the threes just don't go. Look at the NBA playoffs coming up in the next month. You're going to see really good teams. And I'll guarantee you there'll be a night in there where the Celtics have the threes that just don't go. The Cavaliers, who have the threes that just don't go. Oklahoma City will have a night where the shots just don't fall. That's going to happen in basketball. It's just when you're in Liberty's spot, it's a one and done, and you all on top of that don't have the ability to manufacture some points inside, which they really couldn't. And it turns into a long night, which it did, and that's where the disappointment is. Meanwhile, the women, there was a level of disappointment as well, but it's more the outcome and the fact that they fought back. And actually, I think there's a level of kudos that they deserve for that. We'll get into that tomorrow in the Fast Lane. We got plenty more time to dissect your thoughts on Ryan Odom to Virginia, as well as thoughts that have come in on other developments. But we'll kick the Fast Five at 5-ish can down the road again today in the Fast Lane because we're slated to chat earlier than expected with Chad Knaus, VP of Competition and Hall of Fame 7-time NASCAR Cup winning crew chief, next here in the Fast Lane, followed by John Wood, president of Wood Brothers Racing.
We are making it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years with the best selection, value, finance options, and exceptional service. Plus 900 pre-owned vehicles all in one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. The Used Car Superstore is your one-stop for most makes and models. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner owner vehicles. Plus, Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile with finance options for every budget. 900 used vehicles in stock now. More than any other dealer in the area. Hurry in for straightforward pricing and more inventory arriving daily. Why wait? Make it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier family-owned car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
When you're voted one of the best plumbers according to Lynchburg Living magazine, you want to hire the best. Sullivan Plumbing wants the best plumbers to join our award-winning team. Do you have a clean driving record? Do you have at least 4 years plumbing experience? Then you're a 5-star recruit, and Sullivan Plumbing would love to meet with you. Take the first step. Call Sullivan Plumbing in downtown Lynchburg or email sullivanplumbing@gmail.com.
The Black Rose, Mount Joy, Government Mule, JJ Gray and Mofro. Need us to continue? Paul Coffin, the California Honey Drop, Clark and Poe. And that's just a handful of acts performing at Floyd Fest 25 Aurora, July 23rd through 27th at Festival Park in Floyd. Ticket prices increase soon on April 1st. So get your tickets now at floydfest.com. Winner of the Best Music Festival, even more acts to be announced soon for Floyd Fest 25 Aurora. So get your tickets now at floydfest.com or prices increase on April 1st.
Guests are great, except unwanted guests. At Specialty Exterminating, we know the difference. Hi, I'm Sabrina Kennan with Specialty Exterminating. We help you keep unwanted pests out of your home. Now we can keep those reptiles away. Our new reptile repellent is the perfect add-on for your pest prevention service. It's pet and people safe, so it's perfect for any homeowner, especially pool owners and homes in wooded and rural areas. Call us so we can repel the reptiles. Specialty Exterminating, your pest prevention partner since 1979.
It's natural to wonder why you should consult a legal advocate after a serious auto accident. The reason is personal injury cases are complex. Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. Filing a claim isn't just about filling out a form and waiting for a check in the mail. Most accident resolutions require intricate knowledge of Virginia's personal injury laws and experience working with insurance companies. That's where Trost Law will help. Call us at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com so we can do the work to obtain the best result for you.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So, of course, yesterday, by the way, a little calmer today here Wednesday in the Fast Lane than yesterday. And if you missed and want to know why, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, wherever you listen to podcasts to hear how spirited the discussion was yesterday, having, it's kind of a blessing and a challenge of watching the 2 6-year-old boys that my wife and I have from Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, and juggling work from home and how to somehow pull all of that off. And it's amazing. A day back at school, chance to exhale briefly, although work always still comes. But, I would hope that the reason for that is imparting at a young age that if you're passionate about something and you really want to do well at it, you keep grinding away. And sometimes you have moments where the grind is the grind, but you learn the payoff. And I'm blessed to say my dad lives in the area, and I learned a lot of that from him. And he's still working hard, running a business as he has. And I'm not in the same field as he is because he's in retail, but you learn a lot from it. So the reason for bringing that up, by the way, is we welcome in Chad Knaus, VP of Competition for Hendrick Motorsports, with us today here in the Fast Lane. Chad, first of all, appreciate you joining us. Second of all, I'm not sure if you anticipated it would go in family dynamics as a direction now that you and your wife have got 2 children as well. But, your background in motorsports and the success you've had from the crew chief angle to now where you are as the VP of Competition, how much of that was, I wouldn't call it osmosis, but, you were a chief for your dad's stock car racing team way back when you were a teenager, and you helped guide him to multiple track championships. What did you learn, and how soon do you, looking back on it now, realize that those experiences when you were younger helped pave the way for what you've been able to accomplish and now help lead others at Hendrick Motorsports to accomplish themselves?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I was very fortunate. My dad was racing before I was born, late 60s, and then I was born in early 70s, 71. And I really grew up around and in the motorsports area. I can remember being in the back of my grandparents' car, going to the racetrack to watch my father. And then I can remember being in the transporter, which was basically just a bread van pulling an open trailer, or a pickup truck pulling an open trailer, in the middle 70s, going to the racetrack as my dad was trying to make a living racing stock cars and late models in the Midwest. So I was very fortunate, and it was a way to grow up fast. I can tell you that, being around the people that you're with. But it taught me a lot about commitment. It taught me a lot about detail. It taught me a lot about how you had to be regimented if you wanted to be successful. You had to be dedicated to the program, and it was a lot of fun. I loved it. We had a lot of success, and it definitely was the foundation, and still is the foundation today, of how I race and how I like to guide young people when they come to Hendrick Motorsports and begin their journey through our company.
You mentioned that. I mean, this is a very young organization to an extent. People know about it with the drivers, but even with other members of the Hendrick Motorsports team and their VP of competition, Chad Knaus, is with us in the fast lane. How do you balance that where you got to have attention to detail? Everybody knows there's a job, but you also want to be able to experience the payoff, like in particular, the 5 team got to experience at Miami getting to victory lane this past weekend.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We're, a fairly large company, and there's a lot of people here that have been here for a lot of years. We give a 20-year watch at Hendrick Motorsports when you've got 20 consecutive years of employment and being a team member. And we've got over 100 people here that have those watches. And when you're able to bring in new young talent, they're immediately immersed into the culture of Hendrick Motorsports, because the foundation of the company is still here today. And it's really awesome to see how when we bring a young person in, they get opportunities, they get a lot of growth, they ask a lot of questions. And inevitably, our goal is to bring in these people and have them be the future leaders of our company, which we've seen. We see with Greg Ives, we've seen it with Tom Gray. Alan Gustafson came in as a fabricator. He's, a crew chief, still a crew chief, a championship-winning crew chief. Cliff Daniels came in as one of my engineers when I was with Jimmy Johnson, and then he went on to be Jimmy's crew chief, and now he's a championship-winning crew chief, right? So a lot of amazing examples of people that have come through, started at whether you want to call the foundation or the basement or the ground level or whatever you want to call it of our company, and work their ways up.
First of all, we'll get to the journey and continuing, because it's fascinating, and looking at Hendrick Motorsports, and of course they've been a staple at Martinsville Speedway getting to victory lane. But you mentioned the watch when you get to 20 years. Your breakthrough at Hendrick came in 2002, so we're past the 20-year mark for you. Do you have a watch, and do you wear it regularly, or is that one of those type of things that you have stored as a little memento at the Knaus house?
Oh, I definitely have it. Yep, it's sitting on a shelf at home. I don't wear it. I don't think I've ever worn it, actually. But yeah, I definitely have it.
So it's cool to get to that point, and your journey. I mean, we mentioned the breakthrough coming where you and Jimmy Johnson were paired together in 2022, but before that, you're part of the Rainbow Warriors. People may not remember you being on the crew because a lot of your work came when you were an assistant at the body shop. How much, though, has that helped your journey now as the VP of competition, Chad Knaus, who's with us here in the fast lane? How much of that has helped you be kind of a testament and a testimonial to others that come to Hendrick, that there can be value of starting small, and in the old school phrase is pay your dues, but there's a payoff between you and so many others at Hendrick.
Yeah, I'm very proud to say that I started where I started with this company. I was a body shop assistant when I began here in 1993, and was changing tires in 1994, and a fabricator, and just really worked hard and tried to make myself the next logical solution for a position when it became available. So that was, working extra, working harder, working smarter, working outside of what my normal scope was after my initial tasking was done. And, honestly, being accepting of opportunities when they became available, whatever it may have been. And, some mistakes that people make throughout, their world is, when an opportunity becomes available, it's not the exact thing that they wanted at that time, they maybe turn it down. Well, I was the exact opposite. I took every challenge I could possibly get. And Mr. Hendrick was awesome to guide me and help me and allow me to make mistakes and continued to nurture me, through my early years and let me leave and then asked me to come back when the time was appropriate. And, I was always trying to say yes, to get those opportunities. And still to this day, he calls and asks me to do something, and I try to say yes, and then carry it out to the best of my ability. I'm very proud to say I've been at Hendrick Motorsports basically since 1993. It's been amazing to watch this company grow. It's continuing to grow in so many different facets. We've got Hendrick Technical Solutions. Hendrick Automotive Group is continuing to grow. Our motorsports arena is continuing to grow. There's just a lot of things happening here just every single day. And it's a tremendous amount of fun.
With that comes as well. I mean, again, we're talking with Chad Knaus, who now is the 7-time champion crew chief for Jimmy Johnson from 2006 to 2016 was when they won 7 of those championships, and was there starting in 2002. But starting lower and working your way up, what cultural value has that created at Hendrick where even people that are higher up, and you mentioned Alan Gustafson and Cliff Daniels and others who are in prominent roles now, the respect that they have and vice versa within the organization to understand that every role really is important?
Yeah, for sure. I think that if, we mentioned those crew chiefs right there, but then if you go straight to our president, Jeff Andrews, he started in the engine department and was an engine builder for the 5 team for many, many years, and, continued to grow until he was the head of the engine department. Now he's president of the company. Marshall Carlson started here as an intern, a mechanical engineering intern in the middle 90s. Everybody here has done a tremendous amount of work for the growth of this company. And I think, again, that's why it's easy for us to live the lifestyle that we live, and when I say live, I mean live it and not just be in it, because this is all we've done. And this is what we truly have a passion for, is this campus and the people that work here.
When you look at all that element, I mean, there's obviously the team component, and I think it's awesome in NASCAR that the team component has gotten more recognition recently and over the years. That includes the pit crew and everything that goes into it. We've also seen in pit crews, Chad, that a lot of the time there's scouting that's done in terms of potential pit crew members, particularly former college football players at different levels who happen to go into motorsports. Take us through your role with that and the role with others at Hendrick Motorsports of how that has evolved to where, people look in different ways to find the best team members, and understanding who can be a contributor to Hendrick Motorsports Saturday through Sunday, but also during the week as well.
Yeah, we have an annual combine that we bring in collegiate athletes from various sports. We've had people that are collegiate swimmers, people that are football players, baseball players, basketball players, wrestlers. We do our mini camp like I said, annually. We bring in anywhere from 50 to 60 athletes, and we parse them down from our combine, and then we go into a mini camp a little bit later in the year, where we bring the athletes that we like in, and we take them through the paces. We do a lot of physical testing, a lot of emotional quotient testing, and start to introduce them into what the racing environment is about. Do a couple pit stops, do some things of that nature, and see if it's a good fit for everybody. And then if they're, we have the right person, we try to bring them on board. It's something that we're very proud of. There's only a handful of people. I don't even think there's a handful. I think there's maybe 3 pit crew members that we have right now that did not go through our development program, which I think is pretty phenomenal when you think that we've got 47 athletes on staff right now. And only 2 of them are from outside of Hendrick Motorsports growth pattern. So I think it's pretty amazing and something that we're extremely proud of.
Wow. I mean, that's like, there's like a 53-man roster in the NFL. That'd be like the majority of them being draft picks and only a couple free agent signings. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, that's the way we try to do it. We really try to focus on the intangibles, work ethic, people of good character, high integrity. And then we've been very fortunate to do that.
Chad Knaus hanging out with us today in the fast lane. Of course, Hendrick Motorsports will look to grab another grandfather clock this weekend at Martinsville Speedway. It would be 3 race victories in the spring in a row for Hendrick Motorsports, 4 in a row, for Hendrick Motorsports at Martinsville. And the second consecutive race if they can get to victory lane, because Chad Knaus won at Miami this past weekend. Looking at Martinsville, because that's the most relevant to a lot of our audience in our Virginia Talk Radio Network footprint. The generic question that I'm sure you get asked 1,000 times around Martinsville, but the emphasis at Hendrick Motorsports for Martinsville Speedway, was that apparent to you when you first got to Hendrick Motorsports in 1993, the significance of it, or is that something that you've seen grow and evolve over time?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that I was trying to think back. That was a long time ago. I don't know if I was maybe aware enough of the significance of it back in the early 90s, but I can tell you when I became a crew chief and for Jimmy here at Hendrick Motorsports in 2002, it was really obvious how important that racetrack was to us. And then as you know, we started to understand the history, Mr. Hendrick being from Virginia, him going up there and watching races, him, our company getting our first win there in 1984, so many things that went along with it. And then obviously we had that huge catastrophe that happened when we lost that plane in 2004, when they were flying up to Martinsville. That just increased the emphasis and the importance of that race for us.
It's crazy to think about just the evolution. And you mentioned 2004 and the tragedy with the plane crash, at Martinsville Speedway. Emotions, where are they when you come to this track within the organization? Is that emphasized? Is it largely understood given the volume of people that have been at Hendrick Motorsports and know the history of it? How do you guys encapsulate from an emotional level, but also a get the job done level of what Martinsville means?
Oh, it's definitely understood. We don't need to preach it, and we don't. I don't think that's the type of emotion that is and around that racetrack when we go there. That's organic. That's something that just happens. Everybody understands the importance. Everybody wants to do well for Mr. Hendrick. Everybody wants to do well for the family. And I don't want to say that we put more emphasis on that race than we do any other, because quite honestly, we don't. But it just seems that when we go there, everybody just tries to click it up a little gear as soon as we walk into that racetrack. So it's something we're very proud of. We've been able to get a lot of victories there, and hopefully we can continue to do so.
Hendrick Motorsports VP of Competition Chad Knaus hanging out with us today here in the fast lane. Chad, we've seen it recently. Kyle Larson's won 2 of the last 3, or William Byron has won 2 of the last 3 at Martinsville. Kyle Larson has gotten to victory lane here. Chase Elliott has run well here. The interesting question we'll throw your way is Alex Bowman. He was close to winning at Miami this past weekend. How close is he to joining the group of drivers at Martinsville Speedway, at Hendrick Motorsports, to get to victory lane at Martinsville Speedway?
I think he's in poised for a good run. I really do. I think that team has a lot of wind in its sails right now, and they're pulling in the right direction. He gets around that racetrack well. He really does. His long run speed is usually very, very good. That's kind of the MO of Alex. So and there's so much tire saving and efficiency and making sure your car's there at the end of the race that goes into needing to be a competitive car at the end. That's right up his alley. So I think they're going to do really well this weekend. I'm excited to see how they perform. I think it'll be a lot. I think we got a good opportunity there for those guys.
It'll be fun to see how that unfolds with the 48 car. And of course, we've seen it so far with the 24 getting to victory lane a couple times recently, the 5 of Kyle Larson, and then fan favorite for many is Chase Elliott. Chad, thank you for your time today in the fast lane. We really appreciate going in depth on a lot of different things, particularly leadership and how to operate an organization and your journey with Hendrick. Thank you for your time today. Wishing you safety in your travels. And we don't say that lightly, but safety in travels to and from Martinsville Speedway. And of course, things going as well as possible for you guys at the track this weekend.
Right on. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time. We appreciate all the fans, and we're excited to get back to Virginia.
Indeed. Chad Knaus with us here in the fast lane. When we return, different side of it. John Wood of Wood Brothers Racing to keep our coverage going here in the fast lane.
Mark Dalton here with the Terry Auto Group. If you don't love your car, then you're simply just driving the wrong one. At Terry Volkswagen, Terry Subaru, Terry Auto Outlet, and the Terry Clearance Center, we've got the perfect new or used car for you. We make your car buying experience easy. Need help with imperfect credit? No problem. Our team works hard to get you approved and back on the road. Because when you shop at Terry, you drive away happy. Visit us at any of our 4 locations or online at terryautogroup.com. Terry Auto Group. You'll love our cars.
Do you know what a cold climate heat pump is? They're a new generation of heat pumps from Tara Lee Mosley that provide substantially more heat than traditional heat pumps, even when it's 5 degrees outside. This means your electrical auxiliary heat runs less, saving you big time on your electric bill. And with the recent spikes in electric utility rates, that's crucial. Plus, these new heat pumps qualify you for a $2,000 federal tax credit. Contact Tara Lee Mosley for more info on the new cold climate heat pumps.
When the thrill of playing ball turns into the agony of a broken windshield or car window, contact Apple Auto Glass. Your local auto glass repair shop on Allegheny Avenue in Lynchburg. Apple Auto Glass provide a professional assessment with the honesty from your neighbors, so you can get back to sharing the great moments this season.
The feel of the beach is perfect, relaxing with family and friends, bonding over memorable meals fresh from the seas. It's a beach experience, and it's in our backyard at 801 Raw Bar in downtown Lynchburg. They're family-owned and family-operated, bringing you that relaxing beach house vibe while you enjoy the freshest seafood from our region, including raw oysters, king crabs, and snow crab. Not really a seafood person? Try their fresh handcrafted burgers, subs, pizza, and salads. Step into the relaxing beach house vibe at 801 Raw Bar on Church Street in downtown Lynchburg.
Are you a property owner looking to maximize your investment? Tired of the day-to-day hassles of managing your rental properties? Welcome to Brownstone Properties, where we take the stress out of property management. From tenant screening to maintenance and everything in between, we'll ensure your property shines.
Hello there.
Visit brownstoneproperties.com and come by our office, 3720 Old Forest Road in Lynchburg.
Guests are great, except unwanted guests. At Specialty Exterminating, we know the difference. Hi, I'm Sabrina Kennan with Specialty Exterminating. We help you keep unwanted pests out of your home. Now we can keep those reptiles away. Our new reptile repellent is the perfect add-on for your pest prevention service. It's pet and people safe, so it's perfect for any homeowner, especially pool owners and homes in wooded and rural areas. Call us so we can repel the reptiles. Specialty Exterminating, your pest prevention partner since 1979.
When you're voted one of the best plumbers according to Lynchburg Living magazine, you want to hire the best. Sullivan Plumbing wants the best plumbers to join our award-winning team. Do you have a clean driving record? Do you have at least 4 years plumbing experience? Then you're a 5-star recruit, and Sullivan Plumbing would love to meet with you. Take the first step. Call Sullivan Plumbing in downtown Lynchburg or email sullivanplumbing@gmail.com.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
So I guess there's a first time for everything as we welcome you back into the Fast Lane here on the VTRN Sports app. And as that smart speaker open, VTRN Sports, your home for March Madness. We've got a slew of games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and throughout the next week and change. And even beyond that, we'll have other college sports and sporting events and Stanley Cup playoffs when that time comes. But the first time we've ever had a guest on and dared to get into the weeds here in the Fast Lane.
The haters say we get into the weeds. They may even say we get into the weed.
Smoke weed every day.
Nah, we love getting into the weeds to discuss some cool sports details here in the Fast Lane.
So, of course, this segment and the premise of it, for those that are new to the Fast Lane, and we appreciate particularly those who are excited to be following our coverage leading up to this race weekend at Martinsville Speedway, it's getting into the nitty-gritty when it comes to different sports topics here in the Fast Lane. And yes, that, by the way, has been a criticism that some have levied at us. But, we like to try to bring some perspective. And one of the coolest opportunities that we've got now for this is to chat with John Wood. He's the president. He's a third-generation part of Wood Brothers Racing. He's a sports executive in American motorsports, particularly in NASCAR, and shed some light after Josh Berry's victory at Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, when in the post-race press conference, he is also putting the social media together because Wood Brothers Racing is great of a family organization as they are. It truly is. This is not the Goliaths that you see in NASCAR and in other motorsports organizations. And maybe I'm, underselling or overselling, or maybe I'm properly contextualizing it. But as we welcome John Wood, motorsports executive and president of Wood Brothers Racing, here into the Fast Lane. John, first of all, thank you for your time today. Second of all, are we underselling it? Are we overselling it? Are we giving proper context to just how different Wood Brothers Racing is in terms of operationally, not to put down other organizations, but to be real, from other organizations, including in NASCAR?
If we were a book, that description would have just been the first couple of sentences in that first chapter. So I would say underselling. To elaborate on what you just said, so I was sitting at that desk in the media center with Josh, Miles, and my dad. And as I was answering questions, I was still trying to keep up with the social media because that's how we operate. Our family are the ones that get the stuff done. We don't have a staff of marketing people and travel coordinators. The other interesting or funny part about it is I had my 2 dogs with me, and they're really, really small. They're like 3 pounds each. And Vegas is not a super, there are a lot of dogs running around, don't get me wrong, but there's no grass. It's just tough to have your dogs with you. My wife is a bartender. Well, she's a general manager in a bar in uptown Charlotte, and she had to stay back for St. Patrick's Day. So I'd take the dogs with me to Vegas. We don't have a motorhome. We don't have a lot of the luxury items that a lot of the other team owners have. So I had them with me in a backpack, like a literal backpack. They had spent the whole day in the rental car, in the van, and they had pooped all in it, made a giant mess. And so when Josh wins, the first thing that crosses my mind is, I got to go get the dogs because they've already been in the van for 8 hours today or 6 hours or whatever. At the very least, I've got to take them out to pee and poop. So I run over and get the dogs, and Taylor, our PR rep, calls and says, just bring them with you. You don't have time to fart around. Okay. So I take them to Victory Lane, which is kind of neat. But then we go on to the media center, and I had them with me in a backpack right by my leg while I was tweeting from the Wood Brothers account for the win and answering questions as team president for the race team. We do it different.
That's awesome, though. Because full disclosure here, we're at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. We've got, an owner, a business owner. We've got a business manager who does the bookkeeping. I do sales and have a radio show. Our producer, Trey, does a lot of the technical and production stuff. So we basically have 4 full-time people and a couple of, contracted people and part-time people. Let me know from your perspective. This is kind of a, business person to business person discussion here in the Fast Lane with John Wood, the president of Wood Brothers Racing. As challenging as it is when you have fewer people, how much more rewarding is it when you actually get to experience the payoff like you guys got to experience with Josh Berry getting the victory lane at Las Vegas?
There are pros and cons. There are, it's more rewarding when we know that we had a bigger hand in it. And the 6 of us, my immediate family that run this race team, we're the ones that do all the work to make sure that race car is properly sponsored and adequately competitive. We're not turning wrenches on the car, but we have a direct say in how that preparation is done in coordination with Team Penske. We make sure that relationship stays solid and firm as it always has been. So it's rewarding in that aspect. But then whenever we go to do all of the little celebrations and stuff, and this is just me being totally honest with you, it's frustrating. And I'll give you one example. When Harrison won at Daytona, their track president, the Daytona Speedway track president, wanted to come to our race shop and do like some kind of a little event, like a lunch and all that stuff. And we scrambled to try to bring people in to make it look like we were bigger than we really are, just for the sake of making sure he felt like it was a rewarding enough experience for him to go to all that trouble and spend all that money to do the event for us. And we don't have 400 employees. We've got 50 or whatever the number is. So that part, frustrating is not the right word. Embarrassed certainly isn't the right word. I think we're just conscientious that we want to please everybody and make these events that we do. That we got another one coming up. Same thing with Josh's win in Vegas. We've had to kind of push that back. That whatever afternoon celebration or whatever you want to call it, we've kind of had to delay it with all the stuff that's going on. But we are planning it, and we want to make sure that there are enough people there to where it doesn't look silly.
Wood Brothers Racing President John Wood is hanging out with us today in the fast lane, the famed number 21 for the NASCAR Cup Series. And, of course, that reached victory lane with Josh Berry piloting the car at Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. They're getting ready to roll off this weekend at Martinsville in the Cup race Sunday afternoon. The flip side, you mentioned a scrappiness. What from the top down, because you're at the top as the president of Wood Brothers Racing and others there, and this is a family-run business, what tone does that set in a good way of having everybody row in the right direction and, fewer resources, but maybe the right description would be lean and mean?
Yeah, it works to our benefit because we can say things to each other that only family can say. And a lot of most other family businesses fail, and they fail because there's jealousy, there's greed, there's all of these bad things. And we're no different. I mean, we experience those feelings from time to time, I'm sure, but it doesn't get in the way of how this race team runs. And I think that goes all the way back to the way that my grandpa sort of laid the groundwork and the foundation for how this should operate. And it's that we treat each other as equals. Somebody's going to be the president on paper. When you've got 6 people, somebody's going to own the most, have the most equity in the team. There's always going to be somebody that's got more than everyone else, but everything that we can control to keep it where we're all equals, we do that. And even though I would be the team president, we all probably have very equal say in what happens. Lynn mostly runs the day-to-day, particularly when it comes to the finances. He would have the final say, but he gives me a lot of latitude and a lot of freedom to make these decisions and not have to worry about getting approval from a CFO like your typical company or a race team would have. I do all the merchandising, so that's been a whirlwind this past week, 2 weeks. We go from averaging probably 5 items sold per day on our online store, which wasn't great. Rewinding back for a second with like Matt DiBenedetto, Ryan Blaney, those guys did really, really well. I think that goes hand in hand with performance. We struggled the last couple of years, and so our apparel and our merchandise sales struggled. We go from doing 5 or 10 items a day to 400 a day overnight. And so we didn't have the capacity to get those orders filled, but we also didn't have the inventory or the items really in the pipeline to sell. So those things had to happen quickly, and I didn't have to go to a board or go to Lynn, my uncle. I just said, I want this, and Kim, that's my aunt, pay for it, go do it. And that's that. And it works. I don't abuse it. I don't think I've done anything that they would say they regret giving me this, not authority, but something like that. And we just all work together. We all pull in the same direction. Some have strengths that others don't. My sister has a background in marketing. She went to college for it, got her master's. And so she's a little bit stronger in that segment of our race team. And we all just have our strengths.
So there's John Wood, president of Wood Brothers Racing, who's with us here in the Fast Lane now. Jordan and Kevin, they're co-owners. They're part of the third generation of Wood Brothers Racing. The Lynn, to whom John was referring, is Lynn Wood. He, Eddie Wood, and Kim Wood Hall are all part of that second generation of Wood Brothers Racing. Figured we'd provide a little context getting into the weeds here in the Fast Lane. My dad runs a small business. We're based in Lynchburg, Forest, Virginia. He runs a small business in the area. And one of the things he mentioned about treating your craft is it's going to be really hard to find people when you own and operate a business who care about it as much and have as much interest in it and are willing to go the extra mile and a half, not extra mile, but mile and a half, the way you are as a business owner. Was it said in a similar fashion to you by Eddie, by Lynn, by Kid, by somebody else within Wood Brothers to provide context? Because when you mentioned after the victory at Las Vegas about how, and you said it here a moment ago, not having a big PR team, not having a huge staff, and sometimes people that clock in and clock out, kind of the 9-to-5 mentality. How much of that is based on the fact that because you have a lot literal investment in the company, there is more at stake?
So these are like perfect questions. I never get these questions because these are things that I feel like are interesting. You asked about, sweat equity would be a word that I would come up with, or a phrase. But the fact that I am also financially invested in this team, not only financially, but like emotionally invested in this team. I'm not an employee as much as I am. This is part of who I am and who we are. And so it's totally, totally different when you're running the social media, you're on Twitter. And let me just hit pause for just a second there. I have run our Twitter account for years a little differently than any other race team. It's a little edgier, but it's more honest and more just straight. Like whatever you see there is the straight truth. If it's good, bad, cuss words, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just true. And it's really, really hard for me when we're giving everything we can and we're still getting crap for it from people that just want to give us a hard time. And I've been there with my, well, not so much myself, but like my wife is a massively huge Steelers fan, and she'll talk crap about them from time to time, and she probably doesn't have the full picture. And I look at us the same way as I see her and her opinions of the Steelers. When you don't really know the full picture, it's easy to be critical of just the small snippet of what you're seeing. So anyhow, I run that social media, and or the Twitter account, and whenever I see those things, I'm really quick to snap back or say something that I'll later either delete or wish I should have deleted. I've stayed in trouble with it a lot over the years, just going too far. But it's because I'm emotionally attached to this team. I'm not an employee that at 5 o'clock I go home and I do my thing and I don't care what happens to work. It's completely different. And that's what's hard. There are really no other race teams. Richard Childress is not going to be, or I guess Richard's probably not a good example, but like Austin Dillon or somebody like that, they're not going to be the ones that are on the RCR Twitter account posting information. So it's different. Like that's how we are though. It's somebody with a last name Wood that's running these things, and it's hard to see that stuff. But then on the flip side, it's good when we see praise, and we're getting a lot of that now, a lot.
This may be a random follow-up question for John Wood, the president of Wood Brothers Racing, who's with us in the Fast Lane. But we've said this before, and I've kind of long held this theory. Is this true? Do PR people, the traditionalists, if you will, often struggle to see the difference between what's legitimately controversial? If you're putting politics out there, that's legitimately controversial. I get it. It can be an ultimate lose-lose. But while you may want to steer clear of that, there's real value to allowing your people, including you directly yourself, John, to be true, to have some, quote, real talk, and allow that to resonate with fans who often want to see something more than what they may know in their heart to be curated.
The reason that I chose that style is because I grew up in an era, in a time period that was 10 years before really powerful Photoshop. And when I went through high school, the extent of our computer literacy was learning how to type. We did a few, I took some classes where I learned how to actually build PCs, but there was no coding, there was no graphics design. None of that stuff was even the remotest of possibilities. So I'm weak in that field, and that's become very, very important. So knowing that going in, I chose to make our social media interesting with words. We would make up for that deficit of really neat, powerful pictures with really crafty, neat words. And it's drawn a lot of attention. It's drawn a lot of praise, a lot of criticism, but I see our account show up on the broadcast more than, well, I'm not going to say more, but a lot. Considering we're a one-car team, a single-car team, ours is up there more than anybody else's, apples to apples. And it's because of that. It's the words.
I would use the phrase, and if please, if I'm misstating it, you're welcome to correct me, John. But punching above your weight class, which I tend to believe to be an honor when it means everybody's putting forth a great effort and you're getting close to realizing and maybe exceeding what your real potential is. When you look at drivers, and this isn't to put down other drivers, but Josh Berry's an older driver by age, but he's had experience. He's won in different disciplines. And of course, winning on an intermediate in Las Vegas is showing how far you guys have grown and where you guys can be as an organization. How much of the appeal of Josh Berry is the fact that his background seems to kind of fit with the ethos of Wood Brothers Racing, which is maybe not the biggest funded, maybe not the flashiest, but people who know how to punch above their weight class?
Josh fits with us well, and I think we have an approach to motorsports and an appreciation for it, much like Dale Jr. would. Josh is a Dale Jr. prodigy. He came from Dale Jr.'s hand-picked ability. That Dale was the one that found him, and I don't think that's a coincidence that you look at how we get along with Josh now and how he fits us. He didn't come from an open wheel background or like something fancy. He came from short tracks, working on his own stuff, just a different background. And that fits with us a lot like it fit with Ryan Blaney. A lot of people were very, very upset, mad at us, mad at Penske, frustrated, whatever the word is, when he moved over to the 12 car. But his position with us all along was we were taking the time and the risk and the potential upside by developing him. But then when the time came, he was going to go on to Team Penske. I don't think that same plan applies with Josh. I think Josh is at a different fork in the road than Ryan was. And I think Josh's driving style shows that it's all or nothing. He knows he's in good equipment right now. He knows that others know that, and he's going to make the most of it. You get one shot as you climb the ladder. You get one shot in a top tier level equipment race team once you make it to Cup. If you get that one shot, but at best you get one. And you got to make the most of it. And if you don't, it's really, really hard to climb back up. You fall pretty far down if it doesn't work out. And I think a lot of people, if you ask them that are steeped in knowledge in Cup, they would tell you that this is a pretty good opportunity for Josh. It's a good opportunity for us too. Don't get me wrong. It's also a really good opportunity for Josh, and he's capitalizing on that.
John, we're not going to try to wear out our entire welcome this time, although we'd love to connect it, down the road for future races as your busy schedule allows. But we'll wrap it up on this. Not necessarily the generic question of Martinsville, although we get asked this every time, and it would potentially change of how much a win at Martinsville or a great performance would mean. Is there added pressure, though, or maybe even a desire to build on the momentum you've had recently this coming Sunday at Martinsville, given the win at Las Vegas and the fact that Josh and you guys have had a history at times of running really well here?
There's a little bit of there's always added pressure when you go to Martinsville because you know that it's different. It's different than having a race in Texas or Talladega or Daytona where the only time people see your race car is when the broadcast shows it, which is a fraction of the time. At Martinsville, people that we know are able to watch every single lap, the whole race long. So you're a little bit more nervous from that perspective. You want to do well for the hometown crowd, but then knowing that we have made the playoffs and we've checked the boxes that we need to check already by race 6 of the season, that's a huge relief. And like last week in Homestead, we had that little hiccup. It was more than a hiccup. It was a disaster on pit road when we collided with a couple other cars and we're facing turn 4 on pit road. Normally that would be like the time to throw your cell phone, get mad, be really, really amped up. But none of us really, it was just like, okay, we're good. Like we'll bounce back, but this is not make or break because our make or break moment was last week in Vegas and we made it.
That's an awesome way to wrap it up and a real cool kind of conclusion of our chat, which we'd love to have more of in the future and lead in to the NASCAR Cup Series weekend at Martinsville as we've chatted with John Wood, the president of Wood Brothers Racing, _John, Jon, _John Wood on Twitter to get with him directly, or Cat's apparently out of the bag on this one, at Wood Brothers 21. You can get at him that way since he has a heavy hand in running the social media accounts there as well. John, a pleasure for us to have you in the Fast Lane. We hope it's been worth your time as well. We appreciate it. Good luck this weekend at Martinsville, and we would love to stay in touch.
No, this has been enlightening. It's been some really good questions. A lot of times I get these just textbook, standard, run-of-the-mill, how are things? But this has been a deep dive, so it's been neat.
Well, we got into the weeds and had the ridiculous cheesy sound effect at the beginning to hopefully justify that. John, thank you for your time. Good luck, and we will chat again soon.
Yes, sir.
John Wood, to wrap up the Fast Lane. If you missed any of that, by the way, and we'll have it up shortly in full, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the links, and of course, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM, WVGM Lynchburg.
The Sports Betting Network.